This is Stop Stop.
Hello.
And we're gonna highly recommend you to go and join this awesome channel on YouTube called Crash Course.
Crash Course,
yes.
yeah.
This guy is so cool. He's always like reviewing videos of new bands and all bands, everything related to rock and roll. You know?
Reacting to stuff and just
It's
amazing,
fucking awesome.
amazing.
We've been checking it and we cannot stop laughing.
Yeah.
Yes. Rock and roll, motherfuckers!
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Crash Course Metal Show. I'm your host, Trevor Crash Knight. Today, we're going to be doing an album ranking, and that album ranking is going to be none other than the pioneering band of Motley Crue. From 1981 all the way up until 2008, which was their last album. We are going to go through all 9 studio albums and rank them from from worst to best. So, and that is all going to be my opinion because this ranking is probably going to upset some people just with some of the classic stuff and some of the new stuff or newer stuff. So it's going to be fun nonetheless. So let us jump right into it. We will go into a little bit of a background of Motley Crue. So obviously you do have the 4 main members, Nikki Sixx on bass, Vince Neil on vocals, Mick Mars on guitar, and Tommy Lee on drums. And then throughout the years, they did replace Vince Neil for a little while with John Corabi, originally from The Scream and Agora. And then also they replaced Tommy Lee for a little while in like the early 2000s with Randy Castillo, which he came from like Lita Ford and Ozzy Osbourne and such like, and a couple other bands as well. And then now recently, Mick Mars recently left or got fired, and they replaced him now with John Five, which he is very good solo artist and also was with Rob Zombie and such. So I guess pretty much, obviously, most people know Motley Crue from being just selling millions of albums worldwide, all over MTV throughout the 80s and early 90s. And even just one of the bands that even today, a lot of people, they still fill out stadiums. Surprisingly, we're not going to go too much into the live setting here. Like, we're not ranking any of their live performances or anything like that. We're just doing strictly studio albums and music. So just trying to keep all of our thoughts and, I guess, influences of these albums strictly to the albums and not like what they sound like now, what the songs sound like now, and such like that.
Your music's bad and you should feel bad.
That I know that can kind of teeter some people's thoughts and decisions on some of these songs and albums, but yes, the bottom 3, I must admit, the bottom 3 albums I have here, or worst 3, was pretty hard to get through when I was going through all these albums again.
Hey, just grab a hold of something, bite your lip, and give it hell. Come on. We're going to get through this.
And I must say, a little bit of background with my history with Motley Crue. Now, ever since I was born, my parents had cassettes of Cinderella, Britney Fox, Poison, and that was pretty much the main 3 bands that I can remember that we had in the car. Ever since I was born, all that stuff was being played in my ears. And Motley Crue kind of came along around when I was 12. I started digging into the hair metal, sleaze metal, just rock and roll and heavy metal in general. And Motley Crue, I was a big fan, like a lot of people, big fan of Motley Crue. And I liked a good amount of their 80s stuff, even like some of the newer stuff that they released at that time. So for context, I am 31. So when I say when I was 12, that puts us around like 2006. So right around when Saints of Los Angeles came out, roughly, started really getting into them a little bit beforehand. I guess the Red, White, and Crew. If anyone remembers that compilation, Greatest Hits, when they did that reunion, I guess you will. Not the first reunion, but technically, I guess the second one. But yeah, it's so I must admit though, just from the start, like as time is going on, I do not find myself going to these albums as much as I used to when I was in my teenage years. I must say, like the last 10 years, like, most of these albums like keep going down and down and down compared to a lot of the other bands in the genre and of the era. Even though they did pioneer a lot of the glam stuff and a lot of hair metal and like sleaze and stuff like that, but I just find that there's plenty more bands that are better and that just didn't get the mainstream notoriety, just didn't get whatever that is, whatever they just didn't have that image. They just didn't have, the hook, I guess, and just the constant airplay like Motley Crue did. So that certainly helped project Motley Crue into the stratosphere and like the Guns N' Roses world as well too. That's why they're still around still and selling out stadiums and such like that. So let us jump right into the 9th ranked album, and that is going to be actually Motley Crue's Saints of Los Angeles from 2008.
What's it gonna take to make it? What's it gonna take to make it? I'm a sorry motherfucker, tired of living in the gutter, get me out of here.
So this is the first album of the reunion since 2000's New Tattoo, and now this is the first and only reunion album, second reunion album, if you will, with the whole band of Mick Mars, Tommy Lee, Vince Neil, and Nikki Sixx. But for me, guys, this did do well at the start. So like the first couple weeks, it did sell like 100,000 copies and such. It did, I think, reach like 130 in the 130s in the top 200 Billboard chart. So I mean, it did have a little bit of a run, but you got to kind of think though at the same time here, Nikki Sixx was kind of had his other project going with 6 a.m. And I was never that big of a fan of 6 a.m. I mean, I actually don't even think I have any 6 a.m. albums here in my possession. So, I mean, it was just kind of like, wasn't a fan of that style that Nikki Sixx was kind of doing with that project. But you had the singles here, Saints of Los Angeles, Motherfucker of the Year, White Trash Circus. And man, to be honest, like, I don't remember, I can't, Motherfucker of the Year and White Trash Circus are not very memorable. But I will say Saints of Los Angeles is a good single, was a good song. Still listen to it once in a while if it comes on. I usually don't skip it, usually. But I think what I don't like about this album, it kind of feels forced or non-focused, very unfocused. Possibly you could be saying that Nikki Sixx, this could be another 6 a.m. album, or like he was focused on that, and this was just kind of like his side project at the time. Motley Crue was the side project, because you got to think like some of these songs on here, like when you look at the writing credits, you have DJ Ashba, and he was a part of 6 a.m. So that could kind of go into that, like going hand in hand here is why you might feel that this is a 6 a.m. kind of album, just named Motley Crue. So I don't know. Like you had 13 songs on here, and I think I only have like a couple on the iPod, and I just don't dig it.
Look like garbage.
Just like I said, it doesn't feel. Even Mick Mars's like guitar work, I don't even know. Like I listen to a lot of the Motley Crue stuff now because solely of Mick Mars's guitar work and how I dig his crunchy riffs and solos and such like that. But like on this album, it's like, nothing real memorable. So yeah, I mean, it's certainly for 2008 too. Like a lot of these style bands were starting to come back. Like I remember like 2004, 2005 ish. A lot of the 80s style heavy metal bands, like even glam metal bands, like all of the I guess you would call like vintage stuff at the time, maybe, or like the old school type rock and metal were kind of like coming back, and like Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, like everyone was starting to have like a renaissance again, and to come back with this, it's kind of like, it is what it is. But that's why I have it. One of the many reasons why I have Saints of Los Angeles here at number 9. Alrighty, guys, coming in here at number 8 of the ranking here for Motley Crue, and that is going to be 1997's Generation Swine.
I didn't like any of the songs on that album. Actually, I had a really rough time. And every time that I would come up with a part, it was always wrong. And I always got criticized, and my self-confidence went way down. I'm still a little, it still eats at me. It still does. Even when I go into, when I play on live, when I'm recording a new record and everything else, I still have that self-doubt from that. That album fucked me up a lot, and so did the producer.
This is the first official reunion album, if you will. And now, I remember when I first bought this, probably about 10 years or so ago. I didn't like anything off this. Nothing really stuck with me at all. But as the years go by, I will say, I'm not going to say it got better, but there's a couple songs I do take, or that I do put on the iPod and listen to from rarely time to time. But so you had this, it did reach number 4, I believe, on the US Billboard charts when it came out. And also it did reach gold in the US, which was for 1997 pretty good for any kind of 80s style band. Now, a lot of people like to say that the 1994 Motley Crue album was their pitch at grunge, like their grunge album. But I kind of disagree with that on a lot of fronts, because this sounds to me more like what they're trying to be like grunge, or more of the time of 1997 than say 1994 was. And we'll kind of get into that once we get to 1994 here on this ranking. Why I kind of think that this is more of Motley Crue trying to be like what the mainstream and grunge was at the time than say 1994. So obviously you do get Vince Neil back here, and it was just a short year or two from the time when Nikki Sixx and the rest of the band, minus Vince, was making fun of Vince, for being fat and not a rock star anymore, and you just saying all kinds of stuff. So just that drama and inner turmoil. So, but now, obviously, from 1994 not selling well, hey, let's get a reunion back and let's start selling. Let's start making some money again, apparently, which sucks. But anyway, let's get to the album here. The single was Afraid. The other single was Beauty, and I believe Glitter was a single as well. I don't care for Beauty. Afraid is okay. I can listen to it once in a while, but after I listen to it, or while I'm listening to it, I feel kind of dirty while listening to it. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I mean, it's maybe a guilty pleasure, maybe, I don't know, but it's not even really like that much of a pleasure to begin with. So it's weird. It's just a weird song, but it is on the iPod. So, and then you have here Glitter, which I do dig Glitter. I think I like the remix a little bit more than the one that's here on the album. But another interesting little thing here with this album, Generation Swine, obviously John Corabi was they were in the process of writing this album, and even, I believe, recording it when they ended up bringing Vince Neil back. So you do have John Corabi credited here, and also a backing track with Let Us Pray, the track Let Us Pray, which I really like that song on this album. He's in the backing vocals for like the chorus or just saying like "Let us pray." I think it's cool. I like how how both Vince and John are on the song, but I would have loved to hear what John would have been able to do on this album. Not saying that I would probably like it. I would probably like it a little bit more if John was on it, but at the same time, this total different musical style on on Generation Swine is what I kind of don't like, and I don't know if, and it's not necessarily Vince's vocals I don't like, if that makes sense, more so than the actual musical direction. So yeah, you had 13 songs on this album, and there is just we don't need 13 of these type of songs on an album to listen to. Now, one of them is Anybody Out There, which is like a 2-minute just thing. And then Brian Adams is also co-wrote, helped write Glitter, which I wasn't aware of that until a couple weeks ago. So that's pretty interesting in and of itself. But yeah, I don't know, guys. This album is weird. It's I don't care for it. Now, I do tend to listen to it more than Saints of Los Angeles just to try to get into it a little bit. Like, there are some things I do like on this album more than the things I like on Saints of Los Angeles. So that's why it jumps here at number 8. But like Brandon, the final track, the one that Tommy Lee wrote and did, I don't like that. That shouldn't be on the album at all. The Shout at the Devil 97 edition shouldn't really be on here. I think that was probably just to help sell Vince's return to like the old school fans. And it's just not very good. Ah, man, yeah. So like I said, Let Us Pray is good, Glitter's good. Ah, man, Afraid's okay. I mean, yeah, there's not much here, guys, and I hate to. I don't necessarily hate to say that, but it is what it is. So, yeah, I think we spent a little bit too much time on that already. So, let's move on here. Okay, so what we got coming in here at number 7. This is where I think we're going to get a lot of differences in opinion with a lot of people. So, and man, I've listened to this album for years. It has never gotten any better, and it only gets worse for me as time goes on. So, and that is going to be 1987's Girls, Girls, Girls.
Honey, you're a labor of love. We do the bad boy boogie. Bad is bad. Bad boy.
Now, man, okay, so obviously you have the singles here: Wild Side, You're All I Need, and the other single was the title track, Girls, 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 Wild Side, and You're All I Need. So now, okay, let's just sit back here for a minute. First off, only 3 singles off of one of the biggest bands at the time in 1987, Motley Crue. Like, you would think there would be maybe a couple more, or at least one more single. Like, just put 4 in there. I honestly, they did that with a lot of bands, putting 4 on a strong album, because this album did go 4 times platinum here in America and reached like up to number 2 in the Billboard charts and stayed there. Now, but like honestly, there's not a 4th song on here that you can release as a single and it will do well. I mean, now don't get me wrong, like Girls Are Girls, good song, fun song. Wild Side, good song, fun song. You're All I Need. I'm a big ballad guy. I like ballads. You're All I Need is probably one of my least favorite ballads of 1987 and of Motley Crue, and just overall in general. I more times than not, I skip it on the iPod. I just don't care for it. I don't know what I don't know. I just don't like it, guys. It is what it is. But when you go here and look at the rest of what's on, so the first 2 tracks are Wild Side and Girls, Girls, Girls. Then you got Dancing on Glass and Bad Boy Boogie, and then you have the finish off the first side, Nona, which is just like a minute instrumental track or whatever. That is not like these songs on here are not very good. I don't know if just because they're getting clean. I don't know what like getting off drugs, which I mean you can argue at the time were they not, but oh God, yeah, I don't know. The track listings, the deep cuts here are horrible. 5 Years Dead, On the Name of, Something for Nothing, You're All I Need, and then you finish off here the 10th track, Jailhouse Rock, and it's a live version of the Elvis Presley song. And man, like there is nothing on here that honestly I could probably, if it wasn't for Wild Side and Girls Girls Girls, and even those songs are overplayed to an extent, this might even go further down the list on the ranking for me. Like I don't like this album at all. I don't get the love for it. I don't see how it even went 4 times platinum. It's like one of those albums that you buy. Oh man, those 2 singles are great. This is gonna be a great album, and you put it on, and it's like, what the hell am I listening to? Now, don't get me wrong. Like the music itself is okay. You know, like nothing. It's nothing great though either. I can name you 10 other albums right now off in 1987 that are way better than this album. I can name you probably 50. Okay, and with me telling you how much I don't like this, but like guys, I don't know that I don't get the love for this album. I don't know. Like I said, is it because they're clean? There's no direction really here. The lyrics aren't very good overall. Like the writing, I don't like the writing. The production is just it's there. I mean, probably more negative I could find than more positive stuff. I just don't like this album at all. The more I talk, the more I want to put this even lower than Generation Swine, honestly. But at least Generation Swine kind of like makes you want to come back to it and see if there's anything that I'm missing. But like Girls Are Girls, like, god damn guys, like, come on. I know you guys can do better than this. I mean, like I said, I know you guys are I was gonna say possibly overrated a little bit, but man, that could be a strong word. But man, I don't know. This album, it does nothing for me. I rarely visit it. Like I for this video, I played it, and that was probably the first time I played it in a couple years, and it did not get any better. Probably got worse. I just don't like. I don't like hardly anything about it. Even the singles, like I said, overplayed a little bit. Sure, that's fine, but I can name you a couple other singles that Motley Crue had that didn't get nearly as much love that are better. And then even the ballad, like I said, the ballad's even weak on here. So I don't know. I I know you guys are probably shocked at that. That choice here at number 7. All right, so we finally got through the bottom 3, and like I said at the beginning of this video, the bottom 3 were the hardest to get through. So now we're starting to get into a little bit more fun stuff, more enjoyable stuff for myself anyway. So coming in here at number 6, we got 2000's New Tattoo.
To the show. Rock and roll. She's begging. She needs rock and roll. You know.
Now, I know a lot of people don't really care for this album, but for me, I mean, I like it. I like it a decent amount here. Every time I listen to it, there's something else I find out about it that I like. Now, this did not have Tommy Lee on it. This is the only album that ever of Motley Crue that did not have Tommy Lee on this, or that did not have Tommy Lee on the album. And they brought in Randy Castillo, like I said earlier, was a part of like Lita Ford, Ozzy, and a couple other bands. So very good drummer in his own right, and I think he did well on this album. I like his drumming on this album. Pretty cool. Pretty good and fit right in, I think. So, but one of the things I do like about this album is that you get a good mixture of things, a good variety of rock and metal type things. Because like I can even see some things them reaching back to like the Too Fast for Love, Shout at the Devil type feel. Then you got some modern type sounding stuff here. You get stuff all throughout their catalog, I think, on this album, throughout the album. You get 2 ballads here, Hollywood Ending and the title track, which the title track is okay. New Tattoo, it's okay, but I prefer Hollywood Ending of the 2 ballads. But yeah, like the single on here was New Tattoo and Hell on High Heels, which I really dig. Hell on High Heels. I think that's a really underrated song and single for the band. And Treat Me Like the Dog I Am is okay. I don't care for that. And the other one is Drag Strip Superstar. I don't really care for that song either. But everything else though here, I can listen to. And they each have their own kind of life or personality, if you will, on this album. Nothing really sounds too much alike as far as the songs go. They all sound a little different and have their own story to tell. Now, the lyrical content on some of these songs are, kind of cheesy and such like that. Like you're not getting anything epic or anything like that. So, but still though, very a fun listen. Nothing crazy. When New Tattoo came out, it did debut at number 41 on the Billboard Top 200 charts. So it wasn't horrible, but it didn't do much after that. Man, I kind of, like I said, I dig this album. The title track, New Tattoo, was written, or the artwork, sorry. The artwork for the cover here was, I guess, inspired by Bruce Dickinson's Tattooed Millionaire, which I really love that album, though, too. That's a really good album. And just because I guess Nikki Sixx's, or Bruce Dickinson's wife was cheating on with Nikki Sixx and stuff. I don't know. There was some drama going on there. But Tattoo Millionaire was about basically Nikki Sixx, if you have not known or heard about that before. But yeah, back to the album here, though. You got, 11 songs? I can dig it. Like I said, take 2 songs out of here, and I'm happy with this album. Pretty strong, in my opinion, honestly. And everyone sounds good. I think this is actually the last album that Vince Neil sounds okay, capable of singing and pulling something off, pulling a good sound off. And after that is like, yeah, after that he started really going downhill. So that's another plus why I like this. And this was like one of the first cassettes I ever bought too, back like in 2005 or 2006. I bought it brand new, like on sale, obviously, because it was 2006, and cassettes were out at that time, or old news at that time. So, but yeah, coming in here at number 6 is New Tattoo. All right, here we go, guys. Making our way just about halfway here. And coming in at number 5, this is another one that I see a lot of people have ranked up there. But for me, I always enjoyed it. I'll say that. Like, I do like it. But it's certainly not, I think, Motley Crue's best work. And that is going to be 1981's Too Fast for Love. They did release it in 81, but then they ended up re-releasing it on Electra in 82. So we are going to be talking about the Electra version here. So obviously, I think one of the things why I don't really care for it is because I usually tend to listen to more of the later era glam, sleaze, hair metal, if you will, from like 1989 to 1993. And a lot of the first wave of like hair metal and hard rock and heavy metal, because like this isn't hair metal, obviously. And even you could argue like Shout at the Devil isn't hair metal either, or glam metal. But I think you get a good variety. Well, not necessarily a good variety, but at the time they were more on the more like on the punkish side. There's a little bit of a punk feel to this album here, and that's why I kind of maybe don't dig about it. I just think the lyrics here, the songwriting is very, it's not matured yet, like you will see on, say, Shout Out to Devil, the next album. But there's good stuff here, nonetheless. Like, I think it seems like Mick doesn't really have any really good chops yet as a whole. Like, throughout this album, like with Livewire, yes. Like, there is not another song on here that I can think of at the moment that sounds like Livewire to me. And I think Livewire is miles ahead of everything else on this album. Like, Livewire would fit really good on Shout Out the Devil, and even if Theater of Pain was not so overly produced and muddied, I think it would fit the attitude of Theater of Pain as well. But we'll get to that once we get to Theater of Pain. But yeah, guys, like, Come On and Dance, not a fan. Never was really into that song. What's the other one here I don't care for? Starry Eyes, just like 3 minutes of just when are we gonna be done with the song? But some of the stuff I do like here that I always dug was Merry Go Round and Round. I can dig. You know, I do like the alternate version of Too Fast for Love. I do like the alternate version more so than the original version. I like that slow build up first minute of the song on the alternate take. Which this too, Toast of the Town. I always dug Toast of the Town, even when I first listened to this album back all those years ago. Now, I don't know why it's not on the actual album though, which is interesting. So I can't necessarily put that song here in the ranking, but I just wanted to say that Toast of the Town was always shocked me when I found out that, or when I think about that this wasn't on, that song wasn't on the actual album when it came out. But yeah, I mean, Piece of Your Action's fine. Too Fast for, like, obviously, like I said, the original Too Fast for Love title track. Okay, On With the Show is good. Nothing wrong with that. Now, I will say I probably don't listen to it nearly as much as I used to. And, you know, it is what it is. Yeah, Public Enemy number 1, I can dig. I can dig Public Enemy number 1 pretty good. Take Me to the Top's Take Me to the Top's fine. But nothing here that really just blows me back and wows me. You know, like say Shout Out the Devil, or you just don't get new real crunchy riffs here from Mick. The productions, I mean, obviously it's 1981 and they're not really signed at all when recording this album. No big productions or anything like that, which is fine in its own right, which does have its nice, that's some of the charm to it, is how raw the production is and how raw it sounds. But like I said before, Livewire sounds so different on this album than every one of the other songs on here. And I dig Livewire. Livewire is awesome. That song's gonna live on in rock and metal history for a long time. So I don't know, guys.
You can tell me I'm a doctor.
No, I mean, I'm just not sure.
Or can't you take a guess?
Well, not for another 2 hours.
You can't take a guess for another 2 hours?
Too Fast for Love, I don't dig the songwriting on here. I don't dig the guitar playing as much. Don't get me wrong, there's still good stuff on here, guitar-wise, but not from what we're used to, not from what we're going to see in the future from Motley Crue here in the next few albums and far into the future as well. So, yeah, I mean, and 9 tracks originally on the album. You know, I don't know. I have probably, now out of everything here that's on this remastered, you get like the unreleased tracks like Toast of the Town, Tonight, Stick to Your Guns and such. I probably only have like 10 of the songs on this whole CD release here. So, I mean, take off 5, and you know, it's a fine album. Don't get me wrong. It certainly helped pioneer, along with Shout Out the Devil, help pioneer subgenres of music and a whole genre of music. It certainly has its spot. It certainly has its cred, if you will, to it. But for me, I just don't visit it that much. And like I said, too, it's kind of hard to say because I don't visit Motley Crue that much anymore. Like I said, there's like a 100 more bands that I would rather visit and listen to in this genre of music and subgenre of music that I think are way better. So that kind of maybe I don't think it skews the rankings here too much because it's just my opinion, obviously, and what I visit. From these rankings, it's what I visit the most and love the most, and that's just where Too Fast for Love is gonna have to fall, guys. At number 5. Alrighty, coming in here at number 4, we have I don't even have a physical copy of this, and that kind of I guess attests to what I've been saying that whenever I just don't visit these albums that much, so I don't have every single. Well, this Dr. Feelgood is the only one I don't have, honestly, on cassette or anything. But it's the only I have everything else on either vinyl or CD or cassette. So, but Dr. Feelgood just never got around to getting it. I don't need to hear the singles again, but coming in here at number 5, it's 1989's Dr. Feelgood. Everyone knows this album in the rock and metal genre. Everyone loves it, usually. I think it's fine. Now, obviously, you do say now this is what I was talking about. You get 5 singles here off this album. Dr. Feelgood, Kickstart My Heart, Without You, Don't Go Away Mad, and Same Old Situation. You get 5 singles off an 11-track album. Where was that with Girls Is Girls? Now, this obviously, as you can tell by my ranking, is a lot higher and a lot stronger than Girls Is Girls. So everything that I think Girls Is Girls wanted to be, Dr. Feelgood was and did so much better at everything at. So we will jump in here. What did this go? It went multiple times platinum. Did reach number 1 on the top 200 Billboard charts. So yeah, I mean, you guys know that this was certainly one of the biggest albums in hard rock and heavy metal and glam metal and hair metal, that type deal. So let's see, where we want to start here with this. So you got obviously Dr. Feelgood did the title track. Good song. Like I said, overplayed. Half these songs are overplayed. Same Old Situation, overplayed. Good song though. But I do dig the deep tracks. That's another reason why I don't like Girls Vs. Girls as much. Like, there's no deep track I like. There's no song that's not a single that I don't like on, or that I do like on there. So, like Slice of Your Pie, Rattlesnake Shake, Sticky Sweet, She Goes Down. While not great songs, very listenable, very fun. I like the work from Mick on these songs. I just like the little bit variety, a little bit of like a bluesiness style to some of those songs. And that's why I said, like, I like a lot of the bands and releases from 89 to 93 because of the blues and sleaziness type feel. And Motley Crue kind of hits that here on Dr. Feelgood a little bit on some of these deep tracks. So, like I said, Don't Go Away Mad, probably one of my favorite Motley Crue songs. Certainly top three. And Time for Change, that one, that song has not aged well for me. I did like it when I first found out about it, but then after like a year or so, I was like, skip. I usually skip that song now. And even Without You, the ballad, not a very strong ballad considering 1989 when you got plenty of ballads, power ballads to choose from that are way better. Motley Crue never was a very good ballad writing song band. So, I mean, like I said, Don't Go Away Mad, I think they hit a home run with that ballad. And I mean, obviously, Home Sweet Home, everyone knows that song, and country people sing it. Everyone sings that song. But for me, even Home Sweet Home's fine, but like I said, way overplayed. But yeah, so with Dr. Feelgood though, it's a good album. It's a good album. You can't knock it just because it's overplayed. But to me though, I think there's a couple other ones that I just enjoy spinning more. You know, you do have some of the best, one of the best producers in rock, Bob Rock, on this one. And and it's just a shame though that Motley Crue couldn't do nothing after this album because obviously they did release Primal Scream, like the Decade of Decadence. They did release like 2 or 3 singles, Angela, Primal Scream, and I think another one. And I like all of them, to be honest with you. Teaser, I think, was the other one. I like all 3 of those. Primal Scream, especially. I think because they're in '91 when that those singles were released. You're starting to get into that really good bluesy, sleazy type hard rock and metal, and Motley Crue were following suit with that, and they put out 3 pretty good songs, and like Primal Scream is better than anything on Dr. Feelgood, including Dr. Feelgood. Like that song is one of my. That's probably a top 3 song for me as well. Primal Scream. So it's just a shame that it's not on an album, or they couldn't do anything with those 3 songs other than just being on the, I guess, Greatest Hits or Decade of Decadence. But it sucks. It sucks because, like I said, that's probably my favorite era of rock and metal, or of glam hair metal, 89 and 93. And it just sucks that Motley Crue missed that, because I think with how good Mick is on guitar, good solos, crunchy riffs, Nikki Sixx does write good songs, catchy songs, and Vince still had his voice intact. I think they missed out even on a bigger opportunity before it all blew up in 92, 93 for the genre. But I mean, I guess we'll never know. And it's just a shame because Dr. Feelgood, it could have got better than Dr. Feelgood. I honestly believe that it could have got better. Now, a lot of people say that this is the best, but it's one that I can spin and not really complain too much about, other than when maybe time for change comes on. Then it's like, okay, I think we're ready to leave here. We're ready to head on out. So that's where Dr. Feelgood goes, guys, from 1989. It goes in the 4th spot. All right, we're in the top 3 here now, guys. This is going to be a interesting top 3, would you say? All right. In the 3rd spot, we got 1985's Theater of Pain. I know a lot of people don't like this because of the production, mainly because of the production, but I can kind of overlook that a little bit. I understand what you're saying. It kind of sounds a little muddied in spots. Doesn't sound too focused as a whole album. Now, obviously, this was very heavily drugged up. They were at this time drinking, heroin, all kinds of drugs. And then obviously Vince ended up getting in a car accident with Hanoi Rocks drummer. And so, yeah, they certainly were not focused on writing a great album, or maybe even writing in general, if you will, because this is the time when you're starting to get those conspiracy theories. Of Nikki Sixx, of some other guy in the band at like the live shows and stuff, impersonating Nikki Sixx on stage and stuff, while Nikki Sixx was trying to get clean. I believe this is around the time once this was released, after. And so that's always an interesting thought. And I mean, I don't know. We might have to make a video just on that theory, because I don't know. I've seen things on both sides, which is like, maybe not, but maybe so. So interesting indeed. So yeah, this album here, you obviously have the single "Smoking in the Boys' Room," "Home Sweet Home." Every time I play this album, they do not get played; they get skipped. And then you have the third single, "Keep Your Eye on the Money." Dig that song. Yeah. So it did hit number 6 on the top 200 Billboard charts, and then it did go 4 times platinum. So still a success. Still a success. Even though the band and fans don't really care for this album, I dig it, guys. I mean, if you take, let's take out the singles. Let's take out the 2 singles here, "Smokin'" and "Home Sweet Home." You got a pretty good and crunchy album, especially from Mick himself. Now, obviously, they do go more glam looking here. And I think that's kind of where it ends. They don't necessarily sound very glammy. Now, there's a couple parts on here. Obviously, the ballad. Yes, the ballad. But "Smoking in a Boys' Room" is a cover, and obviously more poppy. Doesn't sound like anything. It would be way out of place on "Shout Out to the Devil." Don't get me wrong. But other songs on here, like "Louder Than Hell," "City Boy Blues," "Save Our Souls," those songs could be on "Shout Out to the Devil." I mean, now I think "Louder Than Hell" is was written around the time when they were doing "Shout Out to the Devil." It was called "Hotter Than Hell," I believe. Both versions are good. I dig both versions, "Louder Than Hell" and "Hotter Than Hell." But like, probably the weakest song on here, other than the 2 singles, "Tonight We Need a Lover." That might be the worst song on here in my perspective. But like, "Raise Your Hands to Rock's" kind of cool. You get a little bit of like that acoustic type feel. Just a fun song. I don't know, man. I Use It or Lose It's fun. I dig the lyrics in that. You know, it's just quick and to the point. Mick Mars sounds good. There's crunchy riffs everywhere here, all throughout the song. Nice mid-tempo stuff here as well. And I think this is just like the redhead stepchild, I guess, of "Shout Out the Devil" in my eyes. I dig this album a lot. I like to visit it every time I get a chance. And when I listen to it, first thing comes to mind is, wow, Mick's doing work here. Mick sounds great. But like I said, the production, it does hurt. The production isn't very good. But like I said, guys, 10 strong tracks. Whether you think, now obviously I don't care for the 2 singles, but if you're trying to sell an album and get the album into the mainstream, those are 2 great songs to use. And obviously, as we all know, they did well for them. It did well for them. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know, guys. Theater of Pain, 1985. Tell me where I'm wrong with this album, because I never hear anyone talk about Mick's guitar work for this album. I don't know. Do people just not listen to this album much and kind of overlook Mick's guitar work? And even Vince sounds good on this. I don't know. I don't know what people don't like other than the production. Other than the production, I don't know what people don't like about this album. And obviously, when you're coming after an album that comes after a great album like "Shout Out the Devil," it's not going to be loved as much. We see that plenty of times with other bands and great releases. So that's what I'm going to ask you guys. What is the issue with Theater of Pain? Alrighty, guys, coming in here at number 2. This is tough. These top 2 here are tough for me, because this one here at number 2, I'll just say it right now, is 1983's "Shout Out the Devil." Easily one of my favorite Motley Crue albums, certainly in the Vince era. And now, the reason why I went this at number 2 is because you do have a cover here. Okay, so look, you have "In the Beginning" God Bless the Children of the Beast, which is an instrumental. Same with In the Beginning, basically. And then Helter Skelter, which is a cover of the Beatles, which is a really good cover, but I just don't like the song. So you have those 3 tracks in an 11-track, technically, album. So you only have an 8-track of original material here. And, it's strong, but not as strong as my number 1, in my opinion. So let's go through it. You got Shout at the Devil here. Obviously came out 1983. Tom Werman on producing. And then you have it did go 4 times platinum as well. Now the singles here were obviously Looks Like Kill, Too Young to Fall in Love, and then Helter Skelter was a single as well. And like I said, I just do not like that cover. I'm not a big Beatles guy to begin with. So, but they did a good job and made it listenable. But every time that comes on the iPod, it gets skipped. I don't care for it. But the production is way better than Too Fast for Love here. I like that a lot. I like the eeriness. I like the aura of the album as well. I like the original image, or like the original cover of the album, and then also this one here. Because the original one just has it's an all black album with just red writing. Shout at the Devil with a pentagram. Both good, both cool. And now, even though Looks That Kill and Too Young to Fall in Love are overplayed, but I don't necessarily have to skip them. They still sound good, they still sound fresh. Still, it's cool if someone plays it. Okay, I'm cool with it. It's I'm not gonna put up a fuss or anything like that. So I do like. Okay, so the reason why I did put it at number 2 is because, like I said, it's only an 8-track album, and even inside those 8 original tracks is a little weak. Don't get me wrong, I like Danger, I like Red Hot, and I like Bastard. But on an album that I would say is my total favorite from the band, or very legendary status, which is Shout at the Devil, a little weak. But obviously, Too Young to Fall in Love makes up for it. Knock 'Em Dead Kid makes up for it. Shout at the Devil, the title track, makes up for it. Shout at the Devil is really good. Obviously, they couldn't really make that a single back in 1983 because of the word devil in it and just the content of it. But strong song, really good. Always was a favorite of mine from Motley Crue. Not top 3 probably though. Not top 3. That's tough. But I'll tell you what my favorite song is though. It is off this album. 10 Seconds of Love. Easy favorite. My most favorite song from Motley Crue. Easy, no doubt. Good storytelling, good writing. Mick Mars solo and riffing. Mick Mars is great on this album, all the way around. And that's why I like Theater of Pain, because you get some of that there too. And man, Mick Mars is the all-star in this band, or the superstar, if you will. I think honestly he's the one that kept it together as a band and musically and hooks. Now Nicky Sixx can write the songs, yes. He can write the choruses and the hooks there. But as someone listened to it for the music purposes and such, you have to love Mick Mars. He has some great stuff. Great crunchy riffs. So it's just a shame that they parted ways here recently, and I'm actually interested to see what his solo album's about. That should be coming out here soon. So very interested in seeing that. But easily 10 Seconds of Love, best song off this album, best song for me from Motley Crue. Not much bad to say there. Like I said, not much bad to say. Classic album, deserves to be praised. But like I said, I just don't like Helter Skelter on here. I don't need the covers. And Red Hot, Bastard's a little weak. Danger's a little weak, but overall, the aura is nice on this album as well. I do really like the atmosphere it has. That's a big plus because you don't get that I don't think you get that actually with probably 1994, kind of an atmosphere to the album in certain spots. But as a whole, I think this might be the only album that they have true like atmosphere throughout the whole album. So that's a big plus for me. So coming in at number 2, guys, and it is going to be Shout Out the Devil. Finally, we made it here, guys. Number 1. Little couple years after 1989, Dr. Feelgood, something big and misunderstood came out. And that is going to be 1994's self-titled Motley Crue.
It's me, myself, and I. To death, do us part, yeah. To death.
Are you mental?
The first and only album with John Corabi on vocals, and coming from the Scream and Agora, obviously. Now, totally the music landscape changed at this point. Motley Crue wasn't cool anymore. Hair metal wasn't cool anymore.
Still have a sense of humor when asked about Women, Fire, and Hairspray, the main components of their videos in years past.
Dude, that is a stupid question.
Dr. Feelgood wasn't like that.
You know what? Let's
knock the interview off. This is getting really stupid. Women, Hairspray, and Fire? Women, Hairspray, and Fire? Dude, who wrote those questions? Give me a break.
It was all grunge, basically, and alternatives type stuff. So, in the beginnings of like black metal and death metal, but in the mainstream purposes, grunge and alternative. So, what you have here, I think, is the best album Motley Crue ever written, ever performed. Man, now a lot of people like to say this is what I wanted to branch off to when we talked about Generation Swine. I feel Generation Swine is a little bit more of the alternative / grunge sounding album than say 1994. Don't get me wrong, there was a couple small elements at the time that kind of give me like an Alice in Chains facelift feel, if you will. But I think this is kind of all on its own. I think this is just a natural progression of Motley Crue. If anyone knew of John Corabi's previous bands, The Scream and Agora, this album wouldn't have really came as a surprise to you. Now, obviously, if you're a big big Vince Neil fan and was expecting that type of stuff, then yes, you're not going to be happy no matter what they put out at that point if it doesn't have Vince or that type of sound to it, or vocal sound anyway. But musically, you get Mick Mars here at his absolutely best. You get him in a wide range. He's free to do things because John Corabi can play guitar, and obviously Vince Neil can't. So there's some of that going back and forth, and Mick has a little bit more freedom here on this album. Same thing goes for Nikki Sixx and the writing of this album. Vince Neil never really wrote any lyrics. John Corabi did. He did it on The Scream, he did it in Agora, he did it everywhere he went. He helps write lyrics and write songs. And that helps so much in the depth and the lyrical content of this album. And I adore this album. Don't get me wrong, this album, when I first bought it when I was in my teenage years, I liked a couple songs. You know, I liked the singles off of it and stuff like that, but I probably only liked it, like I said, a couple songs. But as time keeps going on, I fell in love with this album. Almost every song on this album. It's a 12-track album. They could probably get rid of one song here. One song. They could probably get rid of max 2. And make it a very, very, very strong 10-track album. So, let's just go through real quick. You do have the singles Hooligans Holiday and Misunderstood. Great songs. Really good stuff. Now, let's just go through here. 1994. All right, let's just say, okay, 1994 to 1996 of this type of band, genre of band, hair metal, hard rock, heavy metal, from the 80s. You tell me a better front side or side A to an album than this. Parrot of the Music, Uncle Jack, Hooligan's Holiday, Misunderstood, and all right, Love Shine. All right. Love Shine's a little weak, but still good though. Very good. But in comparison to the first 4 tracks, weak. I don't know if you can find a better side A than that. Hell, I don't even know if you could find a better side A from Motley Crue themselves than here. That's tough. That is tough. Honestly, I don't know. I might have to dig into this here. That's a good question. I didn't even think of that. That's strong as hell. Okay. Then you got Hammered, Till Death Do Us Part. I love Till Death Do Us Part. A nice, slow, mid-tempo type song. Great riffage. John Corabi brings his vocal performance all throughout this album. On the slow stuff, clears up his voice, can do a little bit of raspy stuff. Classic stuff. Really good. Really good. Come on. Now, obviously, people say, hey, don't call it Motley Crue. Call it something else. Go out as a different band. Now, okay, I can listen to that. That's cool. I mean, they probably would have fared a little bit better. It did go gold, though. It did go gold in 1994. So that's a plus. I mean, for being not cool anymore in the music biz, that's a plus. So I don't get the hate for it. Now, obviously, you're going to get your Vince Neil people. You're going to get your Vince Neil people that aren't going to listen to this at all and say, hey, it sucks. And that's for them to not ever listen to this album. But for me, I couldn't live with that. This is the Motley Crue album that I visit a lot. When I think of Motley Crue, I think of this album now, honestly. Unless it's like Don't Go Away Mad or 10 Seconds of Love or something like that. Singly. But as an album, I'm like, okay, where's 1994 at? I'm putting that on if I'm in a mood for some McMarge riffage and, some good songwriting and such. Man, it's John Corabi did a very fine job. He did not deserve to get fired, but obviously when you're coming off multi-platinum albums and it's all hunky-dory, oh yeah, we write great songs from Nikki Sixx and stuff like that. Nikki Sixx loves John and the band loves John. And then when it only goes gold and you're not selling out, arenas anymore or, theaters, you start getting a little money hungry, I guess, then. So, gotta let John go. And that's a shame because they made a great album. They made great songs here. It's just a shame that we couldn't get anything else. But maybe it was a blessing in disguise because if it was anything like Generation Swine and really trying to go into that direction instead of what kind of came naturally, I think this is the natural sounding album, 1994. Don't get me wrong. It does have a slight 1994 lens on it. It doesn't sound like Dr. Feelgood. Doesn't sound like Glam. Doesn't sound like anything like that. It does have some, lens of 1994 and like that type of hard rock that was out at the time. But it's certainly, I don't think it grunge when I listen to this. That's Generation Swine. So I don't know. Tell me if you agree with that. That's another thing. With Theater of Pain, that question, I want you guys to comment. And I want you to comment here on 1994 where you stand with that. I kind of feel Generation Swine was more of the grunge grab than, say, 1994 was. But, hell, either way, though, I love this album. The final track, number 12, Drift Away, great ballad. Great slow jam, man. there's not, dude. Every time I listen to this album, every year that goes by, I find something new I like about it. I love it even more. And I honestly cannot say that about a lot of the other Motley Crue albums. It is what it is. And I kind of feel like I've been in like a little bit of a Debbie Downer here on this ranking.
Lick my frozen metal ass.
The older I get, the lower Motley Crue gets for me on my ranking. And I still love this genre. I listen to this genre all the time. Hair metal, glam metal, you know, along with thrash and power metal and stuff like that. But like, I grew up in hair metal. Like, most of my collection is all of that stuff. And Motley Crue was a big part of that when I was growing up. But man, these albums just do not stick with me anymore. And I think that's why I like 1994 so much. And it's amazing though how that changes, and pretty cool though nonetheless. But yeah, if you guys like Mick Mars and great guitar work, check out 1994. There's some really heavy stuff there. Really good, really good. So real quick, guys, we'll do a little recap. Coming in at number 1, the beautiful 1994. Coming in at number 2, the great Shout the Devil. And then here the misunderstood maybe Theater of Pain. Coming in at number 3. Then you got Dr. Feelgood at number 4. And then you have here, coming in at number 5, the different for me. A little different, a little I don't want to say overrated. That's too hard of a, that's not really the right way I want to describe this album. But you know, it goes to number 5. I just don't visit it that much, and I don't get all the hype for it. All right. And then we got number 6, New Tattoo, which I think has a good amount of variety of songs on that album. I think for being in the year 2000, they kind of go throughout their whole catalog and bring some different stuff to the songs on here. And then the very disappointing, very overrated, I will say overrated for this, Girls, Girls, Girls. And we got here at number 8, Generation Swine, the grunge alternative album, possibly here. And then you have coming in last, Saints of Los Angeles from 2008. All right, guys. So let me know what your guys' ranking is of all 9 of Motley Crue's albums.
Yo, Stacy! Talk to me, baby!
And like I said, just kind of set the live stuff aside and give me a fair ranking here of what you guys think. And I'm interested to see, because there does seem to be a lot of different rankings here. And mine might be the most wild and strangest, possibly. But hey, never know out there, out in the internet world with all those bots. So let me know, guys. And until next time, stay out of that collateral damage, guys. Thank you for watching, and we will see you guys later.
Yeah, I wrote that. It's called I Want to Rock Your Body. And then in parentheses it says to the break of dawn.
The more records we sell, the more drugs we get. And the drugs are fantastic.